One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome everyone to the last school board meeting of 2012 and 2012 school year, I should say. And so we will move through our agenda tonight. Next Monday, I believe it's going to be July 2nd at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We will be having our reorganization meeting. And
that's
the board.
a time change.
That's a time change. That's been in the press as 5 o'clock. So
right. I just wanted to get that out first thing. That we'll be meeting at 4 o'clock, and we will get a certain amount of work done that day that we have to do to satisfy all the state regs, and also get some school district business done that day as well, and also see fireworks at Stewart Park in a timely manner later in the evening. So we will multitask as always and get it all done and with alacrity, and we will we'll get that done. So next Monday, July 2nd, we do reorg and 4 o'clock, and we'll decide many issues at that point. But tonight we'll go ahead and get started. We did the pledge, and I believe we have some modifications to the agenda.
Yeah, we have want to add to the consent a supplemental personnel, and then I would like to ask that the personnel be removed from the consent to be voted as a separate item. So I guess that would be Roman 3. We'd be adding another item to that outside of the consent.
And Carrie, do you have that? So the regular,
yes.
The regular personnel report will be pulled out and voted on separately, and then the supplemental, conversely, will be a part of the consent agenda. Correct?
Yep.
There you go.
Yes.
It makes sense.
As reversed as that sounds.
Yeah,
yes.
It makes sense to all of us, I'm sure. So if we've got that, we'll continue. And public and staff, and opportunity for folks to speak to us. And Shirley Kennedy did sign up.
I did. I'm Shirley Kennedy. Several times, Bob and Karen has said to me, "Shirley, are you here in Susan's play, Susan Mittler?" And I always say, "No, I'm not." But having just come from her wonderful retirement party, where she still is at the very moment, I must confess, Bob, yes, I am in her place tonight. And so I am to deliver this message to the board, and I will deliver it humbly and not as eloquently as Susan could, but to say that she and the ITA are disappointed that the contract couldn't be renewed and voted on at this meeting. We just want to understand that.
Thanks, Shirley. And is that Barbara?
Yeah, that's me.
Yes.
I have
There you go.
terrible handwriting. I'm Barbara Abt, and I came to address the board about 2 different things. One is in looking to reflect your mission statement in light of the bullying law that will be enacted July 1st. I want to encourage the board to think in terms of, instead of punishment for bullying, we have to do, part of the mandate is that we act swiftly, that we do education, not, instead of punishment, we re-educate people. In Enfield, we used to have something we called manners class. That fits in Enfield. Doesn't fit everywhere. But we assume that people are lacking skills. You want to have power in your life. How do you get it in a healthy way? And people need to learn that. So I'm going to encourage you to look at, instead of, we already know that at the high school that ISS isn't, sometimes it works, very rarely. In the same way that the penal system sometimes works, very rarely. We want to ask the teaching assistants, would like to ask you to look at, instead of an ISS, instead of a punishment-based solving the problem, which it doesn't. The same kids are in ISS all the time. So let's look at re-educating people. We can use a Glasser model. We can use whatever model you think would be a workable model. Why do you think you're here? What are you trying to get? And how do we come up with a solution, a different way of behaving, with a backup plan, or however you want to do it. But just putting people in a holding tank and telling them they're bad. Now the bully has unmet needs also. I'm not supporting bullying in any manner. We also, there's a certain amount in the district of modeling bullying in terms of top-down management. And so I would like for us to model cooperative, polite interactions all across the board. We shouldn't misuse power just because we have it. And we need to model that. So there's that. And I want to say also that I'm disappointed in the reorganization of the security at the high school. And I'll tell you that if we're going to be dealing with, in a very serious way, because bullying is pervasive at the high school. I had a student tell me a month ago when I was saying, you know, how do you feel when somebody talks to you like that, a young woman? And she said, oh, that's just how we all do it at the high school. We all talk to each other like that. Well, that shouldn't be okay. It was abusive from my point of view. So we need people not to punish, but to make a safe place, a safe emotionally and physically place for everyone. And it's going to be the law. Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara.
You're welcome.
Anyone else wishes to speak? Not seeing anyone. Board response?
If I could just respond to Barbara.
Yes, go ahead.
Barbara, if you look in our both policy 1115 and 115R, we worked in the policy committee to provide some more restorative responses. So the policy, as you know, sets the context for how we operate or conduct in the business, so that is embedded in there. So I just wanted to respond to that.
In school suspension is not the go-to right away. Right. There's many.
Yeah, we've been trying to have a number of conversations about restorative justice, and Dr. Myers and the high school administrative team was good in sort of looking at some of the language and coming up with things. I think there are a couple of concerns. One is sort of then what happens and what follow through this. Right, I hear from teachers and from students that when you even make a claim that someone's been bullying, that there's no follow through. Right, what's the administrative support? What's the backup? And so, as a board, we've been having conversations about what our role is in supporting administrators and teachers when they try to intervene, and how best to then provide some sort of training, or what's the best training to be able to give people the skill set to be, as we keep saying, upstanders rather than bystanders. And so we've been having some of those dialogues at various levels, and I think the more we reach out and engage in those conversations, maybe the more we can shift the culture. But it also means that, from the board perspective, we have to do a better job of providing accountability when folks come to us looking for that assistance. And I think we're aware of that, and we're going to try to work our best at making that happen.
Go ahead, Eldon.
I have a question. Since I haven't been in policy, maybe you policy wonks can help me answer this. Our high school is unique. Not singular in the country, but it's unique. I think one of 12 or 14 where we have a significant suburban population, a solid rural population, both middle class and in poverty, and a urban population to an extent. We can call Ithaca urban. I imagine much of the rampant bullying in the school is across those lines, across class, across race, across economic lines, maybe physical appearance. It seems to me that until we have a chance to intervene and begin to educate these children about the lives of the others, we're always going to be dancing around whether or not it's ISS or something something less stifling and putting kids in a box. So my question is, when you guys are thinking through how we're going to implement the new regime, where do we have kids, where have we created an opportunity for kids who actually go to a farm and see how hard and how intelligent farmers are? Right? Where do we get the rural kids to spend time in Southside and watch how hard a mother works doing the third shift of Wegmans, coming home at 6:30 in the morning trying to get those kids up to school? Right? And then how do we get both of those kids to understand that just because kids have a financially solid household does not mean anything is emotionally stable? So it's an open question, but I'm saying it. I'll stop now.
Can I make comments about that?
Sure. Go ahead.
So I'm at the high school and I'm in special education, and that is true. but the bulk of the bullying that I see is within social groups. And the kids who are from different social groups, there is bullying that needs to be done. Those groups spend a lot of time ignoring each other, scorning each other out of existence. You do not exist, you do not exist. That's my observation. And a great deal of the bullying is within those groups.
Sure. Thank you, Barbara. Any other board responses at this point? We'll, already did. And Shirley's looking at me, but Shirley, I will merely respond to your statement by saying that the board has been in long negotiations with the ITA. They've been very on board. Superintendent Bob Van Kuren, they've been very good negotiations. This has been a different process, and a process that we feel is once we're able to discuss the contract and with all board members present and the superintendent and others, and we will move forward. Tonight, we are not going. Well, frankly, Shirley, tonight with 6 board members and the superintendent not here, we're not going to vote on an action of that import. So we will do that in a meeting to come very shortly. But we will have our opportunity to discuss and deliberate and move forward. So we will do that right now by going on to consent agenda. And
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Jay, second by Brad. Any questions? It is long and descriptive.
And this is with
The supplemental personnel report was added to the consent agenda, right? That's right. Any other questions, comments? It's been moved, seconded. All in favor? That is Rob, Jay, Brad, Eldred, and Sean. Those opposed? That is Judy Max. And absent are Chris, Seth, and Pat. And we will now move on to the personnel report. Yes, that was in your Dropbox, and everyone had a chance to review. And
Jay True moves.
Thank you,
the
Jay.
personnel report.
Second by Eldred. It is again long and detailed, and it's there for your review. Been updated a few times. Any questions? Not seeing any questions, so all in favor? That's everyone that's here. Judy, Rob, Jay, Eldred, and Sean, and Brad has recused himself from the room, and others are absent. We good? All right. So I think we've moved on through district business, and we are at the superintendent's report. And acting superintendent today, all day, I'm sure, was Dr. Leslie Myers. And only fitting that Dr. Leslie Myers is our acting superintendent today, because next week you are the superintendent of Brockport Central Schools, yes, and on to a very interesting year at Brockport. So welcome, Leslie, and goodbye, Leslie, I guess.
So what I'll share on behalf of the superintendent is that last week we had amazing commencements, and I did not have the opportunity to attend LACS as I was out of town, but I heard it was really beautiful, and it happened for an extended amount of time, but it was a really nice ceremony to really recognize each student in an individualized way, as ACS always does. IHS's commencement was at Ithaca College. Just to see the students come and process in, it was almost like a choreographed type of entrance, and to just see the pride on all of our students' faces that represented 4, 5, or 6 years of hard work in high school to get to that day. The commencement address was beautiful by Mr. Lira. It came from a place of sincerity, genuine humbleness, and compassion. And as you know, the commencement speaker is chosen each year by the students, and that was a well-deserved pick, and he really did a nice job. The student chorus was wonderful. Our superintendent and Dr. Eversley Bradwell kept their remarks very poignant but brief, and I know that the families and students appreciated that. And then just to see each one of our students come by as their names were called, and to see the pride that each of their families had was just amazing. So this is always a wonderful time of year. I'm so glad I had the chance to experience that one more time in Ithaca. So I'll leave it at that.
Very good. Thanks, Leslie. Nothing else? What? You're
Friends,
good.
Romans, countrymen,
You're good.
years. Here we go.
Well, Leslie, it's been 5 years?
5 years.
5 years. And through a very a transitional period for this district. I think the district has moved a long way, Leslie, from where you found it 5 years ago. And no small part of that is your efforts in a variety of ways, I think I would have to say.
Thank you.
So, and we're just happy that you know, you are moving to the next level, and we'll do a great job at Rockport. So we're gonna keep moving, and school district business and BJM IC partnership, and Mia Nunn, I believe that is you're up.
Thank you so much. I am turning a 50-minute engaging presentation into what I've learned is 15 minutes. So I'll do my best to show visuals. I'm not sure what type of learner you are, so hopefully this won't be distracting. Do you mind if I move this back? Okay. All right. Mrs. Leslie, do you mind helping me open the other ones as well?
Sure. I think you're being How do you want
So I'll just open in different spaces so people can see it would be great. Okay, excellent. And I also have a small packet for you all, not with me today, but I'll be sure to make sure that you get copies. Really exciting to hear that folks are engaged in this conversation around bullying. I know it's not a new conversation, but given some of the changes in July as it relates to addressing bullying in this country, I'm excited to share with you all today about some of the work that has been happening at Beverly J. Martin Elementary School. Yay, you see all that colors in there. I hope you all don't mind. You can tell the elementary in me. So I am a school psychologist at Beverly J. Martin Elementary School. My name is Dr. Nia Makepeace, and I have been at Beverly J. Martin for 5 years now. Let's see, I started off my internship there 4 years ago. So I received my undergrad degree from Clark Atlanta University in early childhood education, and my doctorate from Michigan State University. So extremely proud of those places, but especially proud to be a native of Ithaca, New York. So I graduated from the high school in 1999 and actually attended Beverly J. Martin Elementary School. It was my 5th grade year that the name was changed from Central to BJM. So I'm excited to be here just to share some exciting dynamics and activities that have been happening throughout the year, throughout this school year, and even in past years. As a school psychologist, I would consider myself to be pretty non-traditional. I am well trained in the traditional realm of school psychology as it relates to testing and making significant decisions about children and their educational programming. But I also am a loud voice as it relates to understanding children from an ecological perspective. So that's important to me. And any time that I'm developing my professional areas of focus, I always look at it through the 3 tiers. So not only am I, as I mentioned, in tier 3, identifying and exploring and intervening, but tier 2 and tier 1 as well. So throughout my years at Beverly J. Martin, I've been doing classroom lessons. So in speaking of the teaching of human rights and the importance of having healthy human-to-human interactions. So that's what this is all about. And I've been inspired by the Dorothy Cotton Institute, Kirby Edmonds and Laura Branca in a major way with the human rights curriculum that they brought to Ithaca. So I worked closely with them to develop a human rights education framework that shows the link, the direct link between the human rights curriculum and the New York State standards. So that is work that I have done and will have for you in your packet. But I'm really here to talk about this incredible partnership between Beverly J. Martin and Ithaca College. So I've been teaching at Ithaca College for the years that I've been here, and always bring students down to BJM. But this year, I decided to establish a relationship. Well, I've always had a relationship with Dr. Jeff Klaus, but a really tight relationship to have Ithaca College students working directly with students, playing a significant role in intervening, being a part of family events, projects, all of that. So I spent a lot of time really educating them about Beverly J. Martin, the history of the woman herself, but also the history of our school and the orientation of working during the day, but also in the extended day. So it was beautiful to say, hey, we have children that you can work with from 8 in the morning to 6 at night, and establish incredible relationships. So I had 22 Ithaca College students in the spring semester working with children. They were each assigned one child, but they also spent time with classes, did lunch groups as well, and played a role in a variety of projects throughout the year. So with the human rights curriculum, we're talking about character development, really identifying those personal characteristics that you have that are amazing and how to use them in effective ways. Some of the curriculum also involves origin stories, so some of that human migration, storytelling, which I'll talk about in a minute, and just identifying our different learning styles. We also decided to choose a book this year, to choose a book for our human rights book club. And the book that we chose is one called A Long Walk to Water. And it's a really powerful book, and so I have a copy of this book for each of you as well. And this is a story about two young people who are both 8 and 10 years old, growing up in southern Sudan in 2008 and 1985. So what I did for 3 third grade classes is I read the story aloud. So a part of the telling of the story, really addressing some of the issues as it relates to not having clean water in a community, and the impact of that was powerful, but it was also a lot of fun to get dramatic and read the story aloud to them, because I'm a big fan of that. As third graders, we turned this into a school-wide initiative about water, engaging teachers in lessons in science, in math. The art teacher who is with us here, hi Kate, did an incredible job of engaging the entire school in artwork to highlight and support their understanding of what's happening in southern Sudan. Also our music teacher as well. So in thinking about that co-curricular dynamic, it's kind of a natural way that we do things at Beverly J. Martin. So we did a fundraiser. So we are on a mission to raise money for a well in southern Sudan. So the main character from the 1985 story, as we watch him grow up, is actually a young person who was in a variety of refugee camps and considered a lost boy, who found himself in Rochester, believe it or not, Dr. Myers, and he is extremely powerful, and so he started a program, actually a foundation, called Water for Sudan. So that's what we've been raising money for, and it's been a lot of fun. A couple weeks ago, one of our fundraisers was, because although we know it's we're not allowed to wear hats in school. Well, the students, the fundraising committee, a group of third graders, and I wrote a letter to Miss Gomber asking if there was any way that she would be willing to bend a rule for one day to raise money for Sudan. So we had a Helping Hats Day, so everyone who wore a hat had to pay $1, and it was fun. We raised like almost $400. And then the week after that, we had an event at Southside Community Center, where I'm also serving as the interim executive director right now. And it was called Soup, Salad, and Stories. And it really meant a lot to me to be able to bring my two worlds, BJM and Southside, together. So 8 third graders told stories. You all remember Mitch and Martha, Beauty and the Beast? Well, that was my first break. Mitch and Martha were amazing. I still have relationships with them, and they have these unbelievable pictures of me in 3rd grade telling stories, so it was really wild to have my son in 3rd grade telling stories too. But anyway, the 8 young people, they told stories. We were able to have soup donated to the program, salad, everything, and that was also a successful event. The idea of doing a long walk to water came from a variety of things. We have a number of young people who are growing up in certain environments here in Ithaca, including Chestnut Apartments, where there was significant violence this year, and watching the impact on those young people on a daily basis. Young girls who would come in the morning and really want to process the dynamics of stepping over blood on the way to the bus stop. So it's not a pity party, like whose situation is worse, but this gave young people who are growing up in poverty, also our young people who are children of professors, to come together and have an initiative to provide something for another community. This book meant a lot to them, and many of them are still talking about it. So Bridget and I have a plan. This is going to be the new community read. So I wanted to be sure and share that with you, and again, I will be giving you copies of that book, but this is just one element of the human rights education that's been happening at Beverly J. Martin. You see a Brain Awareness Week trifold, or you may not see it, but this is different from the others, and the reason why I put that up is just to show that I had absolutely nothing to do with that. That was a group of Ithaca College students who had developed an entire week's worth of curriculum based on courses that they were taking in our 3 third grade classes to teach young people about the brain, and they actually brought in brain pieces and everything. So the young people enjoyed that. And I'm jumping around a little bit just because there are so many different contributions that these Ithaca College students made. I was able to spend a lot of time talking to them about my dissertation, and even sharing with them and modeling and then witnessing and observing some dynamics quite relevant to my dissertation. And the title is The Special Education of Black Boys in Ecological Examination. And I know there's not a lot of time to get into the details of that work, but to know that it's information coming from this framework of an ecological perspective of learning, of living, and of our human development. So for those who are interested, I would like to have a tank at some point and engage in a conversation about the experiences of these young men in our school district. Oftentimes people will say, why just black boys? You know, why just this population? And not recognizing the value of targeting groups and examining the dynamics of what's going on. And as you see a shift, as you see transformation, what's the model in place, and how can that be implemented for other groups as well? What does it take to serve as an advocate for a group that you may not identify with? So that's in your packet as well. Colors, I like colors. Yeah. All right. One of the last pieces, and I really, really hope that you will allow me to show this video. It's about 12, 13 minutes, please. Anyway, what I want to share with you last is a program that that I conducted with our art teacher, Miss Kate Praisner, who brought this to my attention several years ago, and we were just never able to really make it happen until this year. A program called Project Girl. So we studied it, we bought pieces, and we looked through it, and I had some concerns about some of the cultural alignment of the young women that we were planning to work with, including the title of the game, Project Girl, so that had to go. What we turned it into was girl empowerment. So with the Girl Empowerment Project after school for 8 weeks, we took 15 young ladies, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. We wrote out the entire curriculum and aligned it with the New York State standards as well. Each young lady had a journal, but what's beautiful about this project is that it's embedded in the visual arts. So we called it Girl Empowerment, Social Transformation through the Visual Arts. Am I talking too fast? All right, okay, all right. Bear with me because I really want you to see this video. So the young women were amazing. Their families were very much involved in the work that we had going on, because we had a take home and talk concept, and many of the families I engage with on a regular basis. So we were able to watch how in the classroom, in the hallway, and even some dynamics at home, some of the language that we were using, how that was able to, how we were able to support teachers and parents in transferring that in their communication and interaction with these young women, who a number of them are going off to middle school. So we especially wanted to connect with them. Of course, as an extra reward of each of our sessions, we would do a little dancing afterwards. So the girls were always excited about that. And we also discovered the talents of many teachers in our building. One teacher in particular who drew this fist and paintbrush inside the female symbol was pretty phenomenal. So we invited the young women to dance at the Juneteenth festival on Saturday and to share their artwork. Each session, we reviewed our alliance and the objectives, the whole purpose of the project. Thank you so much. And so I can hold these up so I can pass this around, if you don't mind. Cool. And so the objectives, and then as a community, we developed an alliance. And that's also something that I think about when people bring up this concept of bullying. I have to be honest, the word bully is not my favorite word, but more of like bullying behavior that can be extremely frustrating. But it's forming this alliance. Like, what is the culture of our group? What is the culture of our community? And highlighting that. And that is how we define our alliance. As a community. And if you don't mind, after showing you the t-shirts that the young women are now wearing, it was fun. I've been doing research on boys and reading and so much work on boys for so long that it was nice this year to be able to do both and to really put some energy into young women. All right, so do you mind if you start the video, or did you want to ask questions?
Well, I'm concerned about a 12-minute video, but we're going to get there in a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Some of the questions I have, first I had the chance to see some of the soups and salads and watch the 3rd graders. And I remember my wife sending me a text message from across the room saying, we're witnessing griots in action. And for those folks who may not know, griots are the traditional African storytellers. And so that was an extremely, as someone to witness this and someone who is a storyteller and believes in the role of oral history, that was an extremely powerful event to watch, 3rd grade. So congrats, that was phenomenal work. That's great stuff. This glorious video you're trying to show us here, Dr. Nia, can you tell me a little bit more about what it is?
Sure. It just summarizes the work from the Girl Empowerment Project, and maybe once you see this, you'll definitely want to see it.
No, so don't mistake me. I want to see the video, but this format for me is not the best place to watch the video, so I'm wondering if there's a copy that we can have or be left where I can actually view it much more intently and engagingly as opposed to a forum but we can have a conversation.
Sure.
Can it be voted on? It's machine.
So this gives you a sample of the final product of the young women. They each got to develop their own pose about what it means to be a powerful girl. And they had some powerful poses. So they laid down on the canvas and I went around and traced their bodies. And then they spent a couple of weeks painting. And this is a 5th grader on her way to DeWitt. And this is just how powerful she is. I mean, it just, I know, that's what I said. I was like, where'd you have a booth? So this is just a taste of the final product and what we were able to.
We're not surprised Dr. Myers is admiring the booth.
I know, right?
And the poem.
Yeah.
So is that a no to the video?
You see the shoes over here?
Yeah. Hold on.
Got it. Right up the doctor.
Oh, yeah.
Watch the video for you.
Yes.
There seems to be there's a cognitive disconnect between a story like this and the story of Barbara, who now is left, told about children literally trying to get through high school, not seeing others, and damaging each other internally.
Right.
What and where does this kind of beauty fall off the tracks? And we leave kids back in a position where they can only choose 2 identities for men, Tupac or Urkel.
Right.
I'm not sure what it is for women, but where's the disconnect between this and what happens in a high school experience?
Well, it's interesting because for me, especially working with young people, and I'm getting more comfortable being around adults, but working with young people and just being, when you spend time with kids and you spend time with them for a significant amount of time, for a while, and this natural love for learning, this natural desire to do well, to want to be successful, really studying what that looks like in pre-K and kindergarten, and how that often changes come even not just high school or middle school, but about like 3rd or 4th grade. And really, I think the foundation of that is what is the culture in place? What are the, and especially looking from an ecological model, oftentimes right here in the center, the red is where we put our energy. It's the individual. It's what he or she does, how they perform, their ability. But spending time in the microsystem, like what are the interactions between teachers and students? Like what are the relationships that are in place? And and as we go further, like what are the relationships that are observed between adults? So I mean, in thinking about your question about where we fall off, it's that we're not all having the same conversation necessarily. And I think it takes for us to really examine the beauty and the dynamics of a human rights education, a human rights curriculum, to say, I am, right? Here's who I am, or here's how I'm digesting who I am at this point in my life, and here's what I have to contribute to this alliance that exists. So I think there's just some question about the dynamics of the culture that's in place, or the cultures that we're creating in our classrooms and in schools.
I'm curious, we've been having some conversations, not a good deal of conversations, but that the role of gender in our schools, particularly at the middle school level, is an issue, but also the elementary school level. So I'm interested, and I happened to be at the A+ end of the year celebration where I got to see some of the girl empowerment on stage, right? I got to see some of the dancing, some of the work that's being done. I'm curious in terms of, from your perspective, working with 3rd grade and other folks, from 3rd grade to 5th grade, what was the most unexpected outcome of this project, right? What's something that you did not anticipate coming into, but at the end of it, like, that surprised you or shocked you? Is there one thing, or is there something?
Well, I could demonstrate that video, but I'll say if you watch the video, I know, yeah. But I'll say one specific one, Sean.
I know, right? This is horrible.
Right.
You should text me beforehand.
Right. So one specific thing that really warmed my heart were the conversations that I heard girls having in the hallway about what they were watching on TV and about how they were thinking more critically about what they were watching. So we discovered that we had a large group of girls who were completely obsessed with 16 and pregnant. So we brought that conversation into our learning experience. And we were very explicit with them about, we want you to be able to watch, you're not even going to be able to watch TV the same anymore. And that was my whole thing with them, is you're going to have to, I want to give you the skills where you have to think critically about what you're seeing. You have to think critically about what you're hearing, or the language that you're using or you're hearing other people use. So that's one thing. One thing. If I can get these babies to, if they're going to watch TV as much as they're going to watch television, I want them to think differently about what they're seeing, how they're digesting what they're seeing.
Go ahead, Judy.
As a middle school teacher, former one, I would like to see some way to empower girls to be okay or even elated about 100 on a math test. They're empowered to dance, they're empowered to dress, they're empowered in other areas, but somehow the empowerment to the academic, especially with African American children, is not acceptable in the culture. You don't do well, it isn't expected, it's not accepted. And I find that to be the greatest drawback. And also then, if the boy 2 seats down is not doing well, but you think he's cute, you don't do well because you don't want to show him up. And those are the things that...
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because I think, as I'm listening, immediately I think of models of positive self-images, where there's no space for you to think that it's not cool to be smart if Dr. Nia's like, be smart, you know, and emphasizing the value of being, of loving learning. So I think in answer to your question, it's where do they see themselves? Do they see themselves as future doctors or as mathematicians, and in what way, not just future, but even in the present?
Where did they get the expectations, you know, self-expectations? Because I don't think a lot of kids see themselves as mathematicians, especially girls. And
that's also, I'm thinking about my answer to Sean's question too, as it relates to digesting what you're watching, or digesting, you know, like how are you interpreting what you're seeing on TV or in your community, and do you recognize a larger structural reality in which people are responding to, you know, versus just, you know, the decisions that one is making. What structure are these decisions being made in? You know, about what it means to be beautiful, about what it means to be smart, about, you know, what it means to have access to more and more learning.
And want
just
more.
Make it, and I think oftentimes we may interpret based on some of the things that are said or some of the actions that young people don't care, or that girls are feeling like this isn't cool or that isn't cool, but really to know and explore the depth of family value and of education especially, but what that might look like at home or in the neighborhood. We still have a lot of work to do in analyzing that as educators.
I feel compelled to say, I'm not sure it's in the culture. I'm not sure it's in Black American culture. There's a thing called effort optimism. In other words, if I don't see the economic return from education, why am I going to be willing to invest in the education to the given times of economic hardship we find ourselves in? But more importantly than that, at least my research says there's been no other population in America who has fought for the right to be educated, even at risk of life and limb, than Black folks. But I think it takes place that we find ourselves in an anti-intellectual society. right? So when we start hearing things about presidential candidates, about someone being too smart for the job, right? But not whether we think they're good or not, we're just too smart. That's something that I find interesting. That I think our culture is against intellectuals in general, across class, across gender, across race. And I think that's much more of a problem. And particularly in education, we find ourselves that we shouldn't have these intellectual conversations. Like, teachers can't be intellectuals, or as if teachers aren't intellectuals, right?
Yeah.
Right, teachers are probably some of the best intellectuals that are out there. But I'm intrigued by that conversation. We'll talk, Judy.
Oh, yeah.
You should be a math teacher.
Is this a part of the IC partnership that I'm not, I'm probably with Sean, I'm not sure that we're going to watch that video right now. We would like the opportunity to see the video at some point, and
He's got it.
so if it can be loaded on this machine that somebody gave me, that would be great, or if we can share the video and we'll watch it.
That's fantastic.
You know, I think the whole board, superintendent, et cetera, would like to see that video.
Thank you.
This was BGM IC partnership. I heard a lot about how you are engaging young people in this endeavor. I see.
Well, the Ithaca College.
Just to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Tell me.
Sure,
Tell me
absolutely.
what has IC done to make this happen?
I had, like I mentioned, 22 Ithaca College students who were part of every piece of this. Students who helped to contribute to, you know, some of the designs that I have in front of you, the video technology. I co-taught a course with Jeff Klaus. So they had students that they were assigned to work with, and then each week we were able to process the dynamics of what was going on. So for me, that is, you know, to map that out so explicitly, forgive me, that's just the given in my work with them, that they were embedded in authentic interventions in recording the dynamics of progress monitoring and the students in their shift over the course of the year. So we read articles together, we discussed the details of their observations, and then their actions. So a number of them participated in developing lessons on feelings, lessons on problem solving, all of the elements embedded in the human rights education.
But you have to get parental permission for each.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes. And so any faces that you see, there was definitely permission to share that. So.
But even for the college student to report back.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. Yes. And so, as I mentioned in the beginning, relationships with families were established as well, where there are new pieces embedded in CSE folders, for example, that the IC student completed. Okay. So there's some products like that. So there are products that will travel with students. Okay. There's nothing about this, and you may have heard me, or I along the way, that I did on my own. And in fact, a number of these students, these Ithaca College students, we should really, as a district, keep our eyes on them. The ones that are in love with Ithaca, the ones that are really just adapt real easily to multiple environments, to really keep our eyes on them. I think we've got some pretty incredible future teachers right here in training.
I think that's a great place to finish up, and thank you, Dr. Newman. And we'll move on, and we have lots of trifolds here, but we're gonna move on to the next order of business, which is a long, extensive list of policies that has been a long, extensive list of work that had to be done. So we're at Dr. Eversley Bradwell, that perhaps we can go ahead and adopt this.
Indeed. I know we have a couple folks in the room, or I thought we did. I know Ms. Hoffman's here, Dr. Myers is here, some of the high school administration is here. You see the policies in front of you, they're embedded in your book. Folks have had a chance to send Kira or Doreen comments, suggestions, edits, etc. And if there isn't too much, then I think we should just go down in order as they are and see if there are questions and go from there. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at them. The first thing is on the agenda for this evening is the dignity for all students. It's policy, was it 1115, Dr. Myers, and 115R is a policy and the regulation for DASA. I'll remind folks that Dr. Myers was going across the state pretty extensively trying to talk to folks, going to conferences, seminars, trying to understand, and our understanding is that we are, again, early in the game in terms of our DASA legislation. People have been contacting Dr. Myers to share our boilerplate that we've developed. So what you find there is both the policy from committee and the regulation. So I don't know if I'm allowed to move any of these. If I should. So
yeah, go ahead.
I move policy 1115 and 115R as written, or as stated in your Dropbox.
Second by Judy, and they're in our Dropbox, have been, and we've reviewed, certainly in the policy committee, and there's been time to comment and hear about them multiple times. And this is probably the last opportunity to ask questions or make a comment.
In fact, this is the last opportunity, because it goes into effect July 1st.
Just thought, a couple more days, but yeah.
I just wanted to say I appreciated the cross-references and the references that you put in. I appreciate that. A lot of effort into that to tie it into other things. So I appreciate you putting that in there and showing it.
What else?
Earlier today, we were talking about how some of the APPR language had fuzzy gaps, for lack of a better term. Where are the fuzzy gaps here, as we can see them now?
I have my ideas. I'm sure you do. You're much more intimate than I do.
Board members first.
Training is a fuzzy gap. How do we take this from the piece of paper and send it to all 1,200 employees, according to the law, volunteers, parents, students? You know, it's an impossible task that to try to get the outreach there. So that's one of the fuzzy areas of question. We say in the policy, we'll train folks, right? So what does that mean? What does that look like? We've been having conversations, Dr. Myers and her team, pizza boxes, putting info, inside pizza boxes, videos, like just finding different ways to get information out to make sure people are very much aware to help shift the culture. But I think that for me, that's probably the fuzziest area. And then I should say, even while we have the policy in the books, we talked about it briefly, is making sure that we have adequate and strong supports in place for teachers, staff, faculty, administrators, when they're trying to take issues on these, that they actually have support from folks to actually give some of these things teeth, and not that they're punitive, right, but that they're, even if they're restorative. We've even had situations where we try restorative justice, and folks and parents have complained vehemently about that. Like, give me suspension, don't make me do this, right? So how do we engage in those conversations? I'm sure that's been part of your experience as well, right?
Sure. I'd say another fuzzy gap is really effectively following up on anything that's cyber related. That's very, very challenging with, students being able to cloak or clone or mask what they do. So, and just trying to monitor that is going to be, it already is very difficult, we're finding, especially at the secondary level, most specifically at the high school level. I agree with Dr. Eversey Bradwell, the training piece. And then just really, I think we have a great policy and a great regulation, but the fuzziest piece for me is actually applying it uniformly and consistently.
One last question. You didn't even respond to that. I said last question. Liabilities as an act of the New York State Legislature, are these laid out in some way, shape, or form, or are we going to be determining what the cost of non-compliance is case by case?
Say that again?
We'll be figuring out what this means not to do this in courts of law for the next 10 years.
Oh, I'm sure.
Somebody will be.
It's not really officially on the books just yet, all of the pieces that are embedded within that. They'll make that final determination, I think it's July 2nd. When we'll get
after they see our policy.
After they see our policy, yeah. But seriously, they still are, at the very last minute, working some of the pieces out.
I understand the question, and it's an interesting one. What is the liability to the district for not following through or not hearing or not complying? I mean, is there a liability?
As it would with any
Yeah.
policy,
Yes, there is.
regulation
But
passed by the
this is
board.
such a
And,
visual.
well, there's
You know.
many that
I think
would meet that criteria.
that's why we've worked so hard to ensure that we have like a flow chart to show people how to take it from beginning to end. That we will be identifying who those DASA or bullying prevention coordinators are. So we will have met all of the letter of the laws, but it's the actual follow-up and ensuring that we respond appropriately within an appropriate amount of time. So we'll have to see how that happens if we don't do it in a timely fashion. But we've really put some pieces together that I think will really help people take it through.
Sounds a
Been
lot
pretty
like
thorough.
students with special needs that we are by law obligated to meet. But if the parents feel that we are not meeting that obligation, then they have their rights to make that known and to bring the district, bring action against the district, to put it that way.
We've worked with Mr. Moon, our Chief Information Officer, to include the required components for DASA into school tools. So it's a click and a drag drop down. So we're making it much easier for our administrative colleagues to report that and input it. So we're trying to do everything smarter rather than harder and make it easier. And then we can generate data reports from the input that we put in, so we can determine, is it mostly physical bullying that's occurring in the cafeteria, or is it cyberbullying that's occurring off campus? We'll be able to target and take a look at what's going on, when and where and how. Or you all will. Yeah.
Do we get a kickback from Rockport at all?
Yeah, they'll be adopting this policy next week.
We are always happy to collaborate with our fellow boards and districts around the state, especially upstate New York. That's fine. It's been moved and seconded, correct? Appreciate the further commentary and discussion. Are we ready? All in favor? That's everyone that is here. And moving on, Sean.
Code of conduct, it comes in 3 different components. There's the detailed procedures, that's the extremely long version. There's a secondary student manual, though this is part 1 and 2, but it's one document. And there's an elementary student manual as well, that's what you have. The only piece, well, beyond any other, again, suggestions, recommendations, edits that you may have sent to Kira, the only piece to point out to the board is that within this year's Code of Conduct, we're asking the board to approve the requirement of seatbelts on buses. This is coming from conversations with Jim Ellis. We've been talking about this at the policy committee for quite some time. And if we do this, Jim will let us know soon enough to make sure that he's got things in place ready for next fall. But it's Benjamin's recommendation, it's the policy committee's recommendation, it's currently in the Code of Conduct, that it's not a recommendation for seatbelts, but that this district is requiring young folks riding our school buses to wear safety belts.
Yep.
So I don't know if the board wants to have any conversation or dialogue about that. I think one of the big changes beyond which I'm sure you all saw, Dr. Myers does a great job of giving you the list of changes from each year that you can see as well.
All the buses have them now?
Yep. Our understanding is, according to Judy, right, that all buses are required to have safety belts, but not required
All
to use
buses
them.
in New York State have to have seatbelts.
When we buy them, they're on it.
Yep.
So what about the old ones?
Yep.
There's no.
I don't think we're going to have any that's outside that law, probably. We just don't require them to be used.
No.
They're there and either are pushed back underneath the seat or sat on or whatever. Yeah, they're on the buses.
And he realizes that it's, again, a culture change.
Right, it's an uphill battle.
Yeah, it'll be battle. But it'll be, through the elementary and then it'll be automatic.
Yeah, and I think our thinking was that we need to start that uphill battle now. It's in everyone's best interest to wear safety
Given
belts.
the number of times this year that somebody's run into a large yellow school bus,
Isn't that great? Right.
it still amazes me that you can not see one.
Absolutely.
Or trying to cut in front of one, crossing the railroad track.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jim Ellis was at finance, I believe, and talked about the seatbelt issue as well. If not just policy, because he was at finance.
Policy wasn't it? He wasn't at finance.
Oh,
Okay.
He's been out to the PTAs.
Basic question again, enforcement, is it the school bus driver we're looking for?
I would think.
No, it must be.
Well, building-based, and the school bus drivers will, you know, will take their direction from Jim Ellis, and that's part of their orientation for the new students as they come on as little folks, and, you know, you will have a seatbelt.
I think one of the things we know about policy, which is interesting, is that sometimes we have some of our administrators and our directors and managers who want a policy in the books to help them enforce something. Other times there's a policy in the book that they want us to help them enforce, right? So this is a situation where I don't think we've worked out what the details are about how to actually make that happen.
Yeah.
What I do know is he thinks it's the way in which we need to be going, and we're going to spend the summer trying to figure out how actually to make that happen. What does that look like? How do we sort of do some pre-up work before the school starts? And I think everyone acknowledges it's going to be an uphill battle, but we're better off having this policy in the books.
I think Judy's right, it'll take time. Compliance will improve over time.
Yeah.
Right.
Mr. Ellis is ill tonight, so
Yeah.
that's why he's not here
That's all right.
to respond to
Who's
questions.
in favor? Let's do it.
Did you move all of those?
I move the codes of conduct.
I'll second.
And we do have
Sean, go ahead.
Sean and Brad seconded the numerical policy numbers are all there, correct? They've been detailed all the time.
In fact, there are no policy numbers for the code of conduct. I mean, there are corresponding policies that go into the code of conduct, but it's just the code of conduct.
There you go, thank you for
And this, we have to vote on this today so we can go up to the printer and be back in time for
Yep.
our illustrious students.
Okay, good. I think we've talked about it without objection. All in favor? That's everyone, so we'll move on.
Just a quick word about those codes of conduct. I want to thank Dr. Myers and the team for thinking that we should do an elementary version of the code of conduct. I'm sure as years go on, we'll keep refining that, but moving that direction was a great move to simplify the language and go that route. That's great.
Good.
Next is concussion policy. We do have Judy Max if there's any questions. We have concussion policy and concussion regulation. We've had some conversations about. What did I say?
Max.
Maxwell.
Did you say
Yeah.
Max?
Instead of Hoff.
Right.
Yep.
He got to me to slow down. I'm talking quick. Concussion policy and concussion regulation. We've had some conversation, extensive conversation at the policy committee. Judy Hoffman had a committee of folks to help devise this. It's been wordsmithed and vetted and et cetera, so it's there before you. It's new to our district this year, and state law. Well, not state law. July 1 as well. So
Good thing we're having a meeting. Good thing we're having a meeting tonight. That's a good thing. And I have my concussion policy up. I'm not saying a number on it, but policy number.
We don't have a
Would
number.
that be? Oh, right. Is there a number on there? Did we list the number yet?
It's in the front though, and I can't remember.
Just for Kira's sake, and
Yes. I think that was my job to ask Kira if we can find a number from this book. I may have that email, so we may have already done that. So I'll look as well. We'll make that modification and change. And with that modification change.
right, we can go ahead and pass it with the knowledge that it will be assigned a policy number.
So I move the policy so long as we find the appropriate policy number as stated here.
And the regulation.
And the regulation.
And the
Policy and
Second.
regulation,
Moved and seconded by Brad. Again, any questions? Been vetted, we've discussed. And all in favor? That's everyone again.
Thank you for that work. It was fantastic.
Thank you, Judy.
And then lastly, policy 4624R, acceptable use regulation. This is a policy that was updated in regards to the code of conduct about students' acceptable use of digital equipment and devices.
Right.
iPads, iPhones, etc.
Right. That electronic 21st century stuff.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Yep.
And we're going to actually ask each student to sign this, right? Is that how we've set this up?
Yeah. And we'll input it into school tool.
Okay.
Jay didn't know that.
That's good.
Yeah.
So there's going to be like other agreements, social contract for going to the prom, et cetera. There's going to be a contract regarding.
And the hope is that we'll be able to load onto every single either laptop or PC or Mac. Every time a student or an adult turns it on, they have to click on an agreement that says they have agreed to abide by our acceptable use policy. That's where we're trying to be by September.
That sounds pretty advanced.
Yeah.
That's good.
That's good.
So you
Well,
have a warning or a reminder every
Yeah.
time.
Okay. Okay. That's industry standard. Happens.
Yeah.
Proper use of electronics within a corporation. You have to do that. Okay.
So I move policy 4624, regulation 4624R. That we use regulation.
Second.
Both policy and regulation.
All right, Judy second. Any other questions? None? All in favor? That's everyone.
Excellent. And then the last one is the number here we'll have to fix here because it's not policy 5160. It's policy 5160.1, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Right. This is the ICSD not comprehensive attendance policy. This is the
This is a regulation.
we revised this for the student code of conduct. The regulation.
Isn't this the high school?
Yeah, I just,
I assume this was
I would
the...
disregard the policy number. I asked Doreen to do her best to put the policy numbers in.
Fantastic,
She
right,
did.
so this is written here incorrectly.
Yeah.
What we're looking at is the attendance policy from the Ithaca High School that was sent to the Dropbox. It's not with this month's, it's in last meeting's Dropbox.
Right.
Yep.
That's what we're asking folks, so it's 5160, if I'm not mistaken, .1 is what we're identifying it for the high school. Or 5160 dash R.1, excuse
yeah.
me, R.1.
Do we have it in the room? Is that good?
I'm looking for it.
Just give it a second, Brad's
Trying to
using...
scroll and find it. Nah, you didn't put any policy numbers on it last month, or last meeting.
Yep, it's not in there either, is it?
No.
Yeah, it's 5100-R.
5100?
Or 51,
That's the regulation, high school attendance regulation.
You see it, where's it, Jay?
5100.
it was in last
Yeah,
last
12th.
meeting, 2 weeks ago, the 12th.
Yep.
And it's just as a document and with
Regulation doc, yeah.
Oh, I see it, yeah.
Got it.
Updated.
You got it?
So we're at 5100, but I don't, for some reason, I think that number's wrong.
I have no idea.
We would like to, our intent was to pass this tonight.
Yeah.
We're not too worried about the number, are we? I'm not.
Well, the number we can make sure we can
Yeah,
find.
get it right.
And this was, the high school attendance policy was done in conjunction with the high school administrative team. Thinking about that while we have a comprehensive attendance policy, that there are some things that were particular to the high school that were not necessarily covered in detail through our district-wide policy.
Right.
And so thinking about ways in which, for example, at elementary school, you don't have to worry about cuts,
Yeah.
right? But we do at the high school. And so how are we trying to find ways to help young folks be successful was the way in which we were approaching it. And how can we write a policy that helps increase attendance as opposed to sort of deals with attendance was the way in which we were thinking about it. And so this regulation was written by the high school administrative team, did some wordsmithing at the policy committee, had some conversation with Dr. Mars in line within the ICSD comprehensive attendance policy. And I think it's 5160-R1 is what you have here.
It's supposed to be.
And we've invited LACS into it. If they want their own attendance policy within the comprehensive, they can do the exact same thing, and there'll be -R.2, -R.3, -R. whatever, right? That's how we're negotiating this one.
So we will, we'll go with that number for this evening, and if we need to change it, we will, but that sounds like a good
is
number to me.
5160.
It's 5160-R.
Yep.
That
So I
sounds
move regulation 5160-R.1.
Second.
Sounds good. Anything else?
Do the kids sign this one too?
No, but I think there's ways in which you're thinking about trying to get this out to folks early, right, this summer?
So we will talk about it at our summer. We're planning 3 half-days for the adults, so they would learn what the policy is then. Other than that, it would be included in the handbook that the students get, and there's a training for the handbook in the fall.
And this will be publicized to a great extent.
Yeah,
So,
this is-
more than, and we anticipate that.
Yep.
Anything else right now? think we're good. All in favor? That's everyone once more to finish up the policies.
One last piece, if I could.
Yes.
Not a policy, but soon Judy Hoffman is going to be giving us, we haven't already, our updated version of the Safe Schools Plan.
Report.
Right, and it was I think I was supposed to give this to you all beforehand. I'd like to put it on the July 2nd. No, I'd like to put it in Dropbox so folks have a chance to take a look at it. I've always found Judy's review of the committee to be extremely helpful about some of the things. So, for example, debriefing some of our bus accidents, debriefing the LACS incident that we had a couple years ago, that, you know, ways in which we find how to do our practice and procedures better in terms of safety. We'll have that put in Dropbox. If you can be at the July 2nd meeting, great. If not, we'll find another time where we can make that conversation happen. But every year,
Are you looking? Sorry, Sean, go ahead.
every year we update that plan. Just a 5-minute conversation with Ms. Hoffman would be great.
Right. Is it critical that it's done on the 2nd, or is it the business meeting, you know, in July? You know, our regular board meeting in July.
What's that date? I have 1 week I will be away, so if not, could we do it the next?
We can do it around your schedule. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll know on July 2nd, but
The next
board hasn't
business meeting that works for
Right.
you and me is fine.
Right. You know, we will set the board calendar at the July 2nd meeting. I anticipate there would be, you know, that second meeting in July, you know, our regular business meeting as we are tonight.
Right.
Right. Not July 2nd is a reorg special meeting, and it's a special voting meeting as well because of other items that we're going to be bringing in.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right. So go ahead, Sean.
And then lastly, that's great, we'll take care of that with Ms. Hoffman. And then lastly, if just when you thought you were done with policy, we're actually start hitting you with more policy.
Oh, we're never done, Sean.
We're never done.
No.
As we start going through the hundreds, thousands, 2,000 and 3,000 series, we're going to be bringing those to you in successive meetings as a series. So the 100 series will come up next, the 1,000 series. And as we said to you earlier, that this is a year-long process. We'll be doing it all year long. So we'll be efficient.
We've been doing it a year.
We are.
I think you should be amazed at how much we've accomplished.
Oh no!
I think you should be amazed.
Yeah.
And very seriously, we are very grateful. Not only amazed, but grateful of the sheer amount of work that's gone into this policy work with DASA, with the new attendance policy, with some very important policies, new policies to the district, work that had to be done by July 2nd. And this the policy, as I told Judy when we talked about, I needed Judy on policy because I needed another very strong board member on policy because it is such important work. Did I lay it on hard enough?
Yeah, it was good.
Lay it on thick enough for Judy Max here? I appreciate Judy Max and all her work on the policy committee. Pat, of course, and Sean for leading the charge now and hopefully in the future on policy here for a little bit more. So great work, and that's going to wrap up policies for the 2012 school year, and we'll work on, as Sean said, we will roll into the other. And really on to other business by board members or the acting superintendent. And we have, and again, the only item down is the organizational meeting of the Board of Education. Will be Monday, July 2nd at 4 o'clock, not 5 o'clock. It's listed on my agenda. Yep. And Judy Max is writing things here.
Yes,
but that's going to be tough.
Well, I know.
Well, go ahead.
Well, I just see Joaquin here, and I thought, you know, it was nice to see him.
You did a great job.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, very well done.
And we appreciate that.
Yes, we did. We talked about it earlier in the beginning. Yeah.
And no other, thank you, and no other comments by the board. Superintendent, last business by the superintendent.
Woohoo! Is that with a W-H?
And as they used to say on Saturday Night Live, that's it for me, and I'm out of here. And so thank you, Dr. Leslie Myers, for standing in today and all your hard work. Thank you, everyone else, for your hard work in 2012 school year. Next week, we start it all over again, so that's great. And I'll motion to adjourn from someone. Sean and Brad will second, and without objection, we are done. Thank you.